that, getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Hello and welcome in. This is the Sim Racers Group F-3 Series, round 6 here at Algarve International Circuit in Portimao, Portugal. We are live here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. My name is Charles Beauchel. Alongside me is Kane Lasky, newcomer to the broadcast booth, and Mike Braun, as always, Magic Mike in the production truck, taking care of things for us. So we're going to talk about this race tonight. So we've got a track length of about 2.9 miles. You can see the temperature on the screen, 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 33, 34 degrees Celsius if you're into that sort of thing. We're going to get ready to do tonight's race. But let me bring in Kane Lasky real quick. Kane, welcome into the broadcast booth. So just a little bit about you. You sent me some information. 200 races in motocross or in motorcycle racing, autocross and road course racing. Lots of experience, and I actually looked up your customer number, and folks, he's got a lot of experience in iRacing as well. His customer number is in the low 5 digits, so he's been here for a long time and seen lots of changes. Kane, welcome into the booth tonight.
Thanks, Charles. Good to be here.
All right, so let's talk about tonight's race, and we'll get the keys to the race up real quick, and we'll talk about this Portimao circuit. Tonight's keys, tires are going to be severely tested. Obviously, we talked the whole season long about the rear tires, but this track has lots and lots of high-speed corners, lots of elevation changes, that's going to put a strain on all four of those tires, trying to keep that car headed in the proper direction. Elevation changes on these courses is going to make tricky braking series, tricky braking problems, I should say. You're going to have lots of brake lockups if you're not careful. You got to be very careful on those downhill braking zones, as you're seeing there with Josh Corbin. And finally, we got one long straight, a couple smaller straights. You got to make the most of those, get that draft, make position changes, make passes, and try and get your way up to the front. And those are tonight's keys to the race. I'm sure we'll see other things as well. We'll, of course, talk about the rear tires and the impact they're going to have on tonight's race. That'll go as we get further along. And we will continue to talk about that, probably some debris as well. There are a couple of spots here that the debris may be a problem. So let's go ahead and look at the current point standings for the championship. And we'll get that pulled up and we'll take a look at that here. There we go. And all right, there we go. Stephen Case leading with 184 points. Caleb Mikovits, who I believe I heard that was not here tonight because he is celebrating his birthday. Happy birthday, Caleb. Go enjoy that. Skylar Vicroy in third, still very tight between second, third, and fourth. Danuj Paborji sitting there in fourth, 151 points, only 6 back, 4 points separating Mikovits and Vicroy. Chris Eggert, Jason Green, Josh Corbin, Adam Thompson with his vacation to drop down the order a little bit. Of course, those will change when they have the drop rounds. So he's currently sitting in 8th as it stands. Daniel Lebivy in 9th, Alex Velasco in 10th. And we'll scroll over and take a look at our current standings in the team section. I'm sorry. Thank you very much there, Mike. We got Case and K Racing sitting there with 194 points. Who is SRG6, 183. Vibes Based Racing Team, 170. Slow Motion Brothers with 160. And then rounding out your top 5, Team Eggtran, 147 points. And those are your top 5. And then it's still tight from there down. So lots of places to be gained and lost over the course of the end of the season. And we will look at our practice time. Skylar Vicroy currently 137.37, just ahead of Stephen Case and Jason Green. Still very tight at the top of the order. Looks like we got the top 9 that'll be separated by 1 second. That'll be something we'll watch during qualifying. And Kane, so let's talk about this a little bit. You said that you drove this track a little bit today, got in the F-3 car and kind of rode some laps. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be a difficult track to keep your lap time consistent. So over the race, and definitely there's a bunch of places where you could easily make mistakes and throw the car away. And turn 1 is going to be a big action place tonight. It's the fastest corner on the track, the 1-2 section. And I think there's going to be lots of drafting tonight that are going to take people into that section. And so it's really going to be a place where you need to hold on to the car and make sure that you make your passes stick, because you can get yourself into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking about it all season long. I know you said you went back and watched a few of the races. The rear tires on this car don't seem to want to run for the full 30 minutes. It starts going away around the 20-25 minute mark, and you start seeing real issues with these tires. And I think with this track design, the way it's laid out, and a lot of these really quick corners, it's going to put a lot of stress on all 4 tires, not just the rears, as we continue on here. We see Chris Eggert coming in for a pit stop. Obviously, should not see any pit stop tonight. We might have to contend with some people coming in for a fast repair. Obviously, if you were with us last night in the F4 race, that's the difference between that league and this league. You know, got some more experienced drivers in here, and the damage is on. So as you see there, a little bit with a lockup and a spin. And I think we're going to see that quite a bit tonight. You'll see, obviously, as I said, damage owned for tonight's event, and it is for the entire season. However, they do have the benefit of a fast repair. So they get in trouble early, they can get into the pits, get their fast repair taken, and get back out and maybe pick up a few places that will give them some extra points to carry on through this season. You never can tell. when those extra points are going to matter. As we're on board here with Skylar Vicroy, and we're coming around through. This is, I believe, 6, 7 complex, 7 into 8 and 9. Very, very fast. You see this very quick left-hander, almost flat through there. Downward elevation, then back up the hill to the top of the hill. These, like I said, the crest of these are the braking zones here, where it's got elevation changes, is going to make these very, very difficult to handle for the course of the 30 minutes or 25 minutes, excuse me.
Yeah, that was definitely something you mentioned, Charles, is that after about 10 or 15 minutes, the rear tires start wearing, and they can get quite heated up. And so keeping your lap time consistent from the beginning of the race to the end of the race, and I think not making any mistakes in the last few minutes of the race are going to be key tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. You're exactly right. We'll have to watch as practice is winding down. Looks like Stephen Case is going to take the practice, the high marks for practice, with a half-second gap over Skylar Vicroy, who had a chance to improve there. Obviously, we saw the little brake lock up and spin. So we're going to try and keep an eye on this as we scroll over and hit the qualifying phase of this tonight. 15 minutes on the clock, open qualifying, so you got a chance to get out and maybe do a little bit of drafting. That might help your case as we get through here. I think that this long front straight as we get through here may be good for 2 or 3 tenths. We saw it last week at Fuji, where it seemed like at the beginning, once they came out of the final corner, not so much, but it just kept building and building and building. And by the into that front straightaway, they had picked up 3 or 4 tenths coming down through there, and were able to just make that run down into the inside and try and make a move. And we may see a lot of that happening tonight. But Kane, from my point of view, because these are a little more open corners than we had at Fuji last time, it may be one of those that you might try maybe some outside moves in through turn 1 and 2 to see if you can carry more speed through there.
Yeah, the car has really good aero grip, and you definitely can carry a lot of speed through most of the corners. And I think the key is really going to be to not get too out of control, to basically make sure. I don't know how much these guys practice with each other, but it definitely seemed that this track is going to be a lot different racing than lapping. Not very difficult to lap and get your lap times consistent while the tires are fresh, but going wheel to wheel and trying to make the moves with all the elevation, camber, and radius changes, you could easily find yourself in a bit of trouble and around and ruin your race.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see a couple of drivers come in about the midpoint of the qualifying session for a fresh set of tires. Just kind of makes sense to go out and get a second run, a second bite of the apple, as it were, and go back out on some fresh tires with maybe a little bit less fuel in the car, and see if you can make a little more headway through there. As we're on board here with Neil Day, as he's working his way around the final corner, you can see the elevation change and just a really wide open corner there. That final corner coming through is just wide open. You're flat all the way around through it. And he was trying that inside line. I've seen racing here, and the outside line, the inside line I don't know that there's a big difference between. I think you can carry a lot more speed on the outside, which may help you run down the front straight. But with these cars, the way they're drafting, maybe the inside line, just being the shortest way around, might be the key.
Yeah, I noticed driving this track was very challenging. You go from very high speeds to very low speeds quite often, and in these cars, you're carrying a whole head of steam with a lot of grip, and getting the modulation with your speed in line is probably the most difficult part of lapping around here.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're kind of keeping an eye on things, we're on board Josh Corwin, as he's working his lap, and Skylar Vicroy looks like he has got a burner going here. He's got 2 purple sectors, so looks like unless he makes a mistake here, looks like he's got a good run for 142 miles an hour opening out of that corner, and carrying that speed down, and sets the pole time. And we'll see who can match that. That's a 1:37.6. So pretty good time right off the bat.
Yeah, that's pretty quick times. Most of the race times this week were in 37s. And yeah, I think the guy who could keep his pace till the end of the race is going to have a good shot, because as you mentioned, Charles, after about 20 minutes, your rear tires are almost down to about 70%, and it's really easy to make mistakes in this car. This track has some interesting corners where really have to push coming down the hill into basically turn 5 there, which is the hairpin that leads you back up the hill. That was one of the, I think, most difficult corners. This car, once you get it slowed down, it really doesn't have that much mechanical grip in the slow corners. So your transition off the brakes and getting your speed right and your line through the corners, pretty difficult. But this car is actually pretty easy to drive through most of the fast corners. Once it gets loaded up with all that aero grip, you basically can just turn the steering wheel and the car is pretty responsive. So I think that's going to be a big area tonight where we're going to see a bunch of mistakes down into that hairpin, getting the car slowed down in turn 5, and then also turn 8. A tight right-hander called Samsung that leads you into the fast section up to Portimao there is another difficult corner, and especially as the tires wear.
Absolutely, you're exactly right. As we just said, there's Christopher Eggert, top of the pole, 1:37.5. So it's taking a couple of tenths off of Vickroy, who's looks like it's open. There's a little lock up there after his lap is done. That's going to hurt him for this lap, and we'll see Stephen Case has a purple sector, middle sector 2, and then not fast lap, a yellow sector 3. So able to get a really quick middle sector, but then his last sector was off. So maybe a mistake made there by Case, but still managed to pull up and get home. So obviously a monster middle sector, and then a personal best first sector. So 1:37.4. So the times keep dropping. All right, we're going to take an on-board lap here with Tyrone Da Silva. We're working our way through turn 1, and then around through turn 2. You can see how much speed they're carrying through those first 2 corners until we get here to turn 3. Slow the car way down, get the car reset. You're going to come through this corner. I'm not sure that's even a corner. We'll call that turn 4. I think that is how it's listed. And we get the little short run down here, downhill braking zone into the hairpin at turn 5. As you can see him carrying the speed in, trying not to lock the brakes, did a good job there on that inside left tire as he works his way through 6. And then a quick right-hander into 7, and now Samsung 8. Once again, braking then back up the hill over this crest. Is going to try and get the car moved over to the right-hand side to get the entry open for turn 9. And then around, we're going to get a nice winding corner here for turn 10. Almost a double apex corner there as we head back down the hill into this turn 11 left-hander, still wide open. Then another tight corner here. This is a little hairpin, turn 12. This is the final, we've got one more. We've got another little switch back here for turn 13. And this is going to lead us through into turn 14, which is our final corner, and back down the front straight to see what our lap time is going to be with Mr. Da Silva. As you see, taking that really tight line through there, carrying as much speed as he can. A little bit off of what we saw with Vickroy earlier, a couple miles an hour slower. So we'll see what his lap time looks like, and that's going to move him up into P12 and then drop him back down into P13 as Conway finishes his lap. But a good lap, 1:38.7. So the lap times are still climbing down, and we've still got those top 8 separated by 1 second.
Definitely those last 2 corners, Charles, is going to be pretty tricky. Second to the last corner is very important. You can, if you get a really good run, you can take a few extra miles per hour through that corner, and that carries your momentum all the way down the front straightaway. And I think that's going to be probably one of the easiest places to make a pass, is if you can be really good out of that second to the last corner, you'll be able to get by well before the braking zone into turn one. But I imagine that's where we might see some trouble tonight. People trying to go too wide through turn one really isn't going to work. And if you get out there on the curbing, you could really unsettle the car and get out of control there.
Yeah, as you can see, yeah, and you speak about it, and it just comes to reality with Navas coming out there and just a little too much outside curve there through turn one. Manages to get the car collected, but I think that's an off track, so I don't think this lap's going to count. As he is still continuing on, he'll try and keep his momentum going, keep the heat in the tires, and get reset for the next lap as we're 9 minutes into our 15-minute qualifying. Stephen Case sitting on pole, Christopher Eggert second, Skylar Vicroy third, Velasco, Green, Lopez, Conway, Perborgi, Lubivi, and Corbin, your top 10. And we'll start, as we see now, Lubivi is in with that 1 second also, so the times are still coming down. We've got the top 18 separated by 2 seconds. So, we always talk about that magical 1 second because that is the draft range more or less for these cars. So you want to try and keep, yourself up toward the front, and you want to keep a car in front of you within a second so you can get that extra pace from the draft going down these couple straightaways that we're going to have tonight. And it's going to make your life a lot easier. You get into that bubble where you don't have anybody around you, and it not just makes for a boring race, but obviously you're not going to be able to make the same lap times as you would if you're working with somebody else.
Definitely one of those tracks where practice is going to be really important. If you haven't put in your practice, there's pretty much no way I think you're going to be able to hang with the fast guys. It's not that hard to put in a good lap, but it's very difficult to put in lap after lap and hit your marks, especially with some of these fast corners, as you can see here, this 1-2 section, and even getting it slowed down here for the hairpin. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to get it wrong on this track, and draft is not going to save you. I think that people who basically keep the car tidy and right and keep the tires under control so they make it, the distance is going to be key tonight. Sure, and that, and not making any big mistakes and throwing your race away.
Absolutely, consistency gets you points, and you keep doing your consistent race over race, and that wins you championships. So that's a good shout. It's absolutely. As we see Velasco there carrying too much speed, getting to the outside into the gravel, and looping the car around. He's going to rejoin that, and he'll reset. Hopefully, he's got time for at least one more lap, depending on where he is on the track. He should be able to get one lap, maybe two more in, but he's got to get those tires cleaned off and get them kind of settled down. As we see Lopez working his way around a car, as we see there's another car there on the outside. Can't really tell who that is. That is, can't really see who it is based on the track map either. They actually took a wide angle there through the corner. That's Day. As Mike switches cameras for us. Appreciate that, Mike. As we see now Lopez with a good run, 156, 57, 58. And then the outside line through one, able to get the car checked up. Probably not the fastest way through there. As you said, don't want to be going too wide through turn one. It's probably not the smartest way to do that. Obviously, you have to be careful, and you can't quite take as much of the racing line as you normally would, because you obviously don't want to make contact with another car.
Yeah, Case is looking pretty dominant here in qualifying. Got 0.3 of a second over Vicroy and Velasco. I don't think Charles? I don't think qualifying is gonna have that much impact on the race. I really think it's going to be keeping your head cool and being able to put consistent laps down from start to finish that are going to pay dividends here.
I would tend to agree with that, although I think that your chances for being consistent are a little easier from the front of the grid than they are in the back. So I agree with you, but I think sometimes a good qualifying spot can help you achieve that consistency that you want, and doesn't get tight, because that mid-pack battle, as we've seen, has gotten progressively more difficult as these weeks have rolled on during this season. It just seems like everybody's game is everybody stepped up their game. They put more work in. They've gotten faster. The lap times on average are getting tighter, and so if you can manage to get a fast one through here, and you can get up in the top 6 or 8, then that tends to be a good thing for you. As we see Conway there with the spin, and you got to watch out for those curbs. That is not one that you want to try and take at any kind of speed. So yeah, I would agree in principle, but just as a caveat, I think you obviously want to start as close to the front as you can. That's going to keep you out of any potential accidents or collisions during, especially during the early parts of the race.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd have to say this is not the easiest car to hustle around a circuit for 30 minutes.
Ooh.
It might be very fun to drive, but it has
Yeah.
quite a bit of grip and quite a bit of power.
Yeah.
Uh, 220 horsepower and 1,200 pounds with the driver, so that's like 4 times as powerful as Mazda Miata
Hmm. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's
for power to weight ratio. And if you've driven a Miata, it's a pretty nimble car. Imagine having 4 times the power to weight ratio.
yeah, it's like it is quite the difference. Obviously, the aero response is going to be quite a bit better with this car than it would with Miata as well. Stickier tires, and you said obviously because of the lighter weight, the tires are going to just be able to handle better. And this is going to be one of those races that you're going to have to you're going to have to be on your toes because. I think the track's going to change a little bit during the course of this as qualifying is coming to an end, and I think that obviously the tires are going to wear off during the course of this, and so you're going to have to kind of keep an eye and keep your hands on the wheel, keep the feel in the car as we see Cardenas there with a little drift coming out of that corner. I think that was turn 13 there, or I'm sorry, turn 12, and this through 13, and then in 14. So yeah, I completely agree with you that it's going to be one of those that with ever changing conditions, especially with your tires, it's going to be one of those that it's consistently quick, but not overdoing it. It might be the key to the win here, as we're finishing up qualifying. We've only got a few cars left on track. The iRacing will determine here very soon whether or not these drivers are going to get to finish their lap or if they're not going to have enough time. But as it stands here, Stephen Case on pole, 137.27. Christopher Egger in second, as you see him coming around the final corner for the last time. 137, so almost 3/10 behind. So in pretty close range. Skylar Vickerway third, Velasco fourth, Green fifth. Basically a half second separating the top 5. Then you've got Josh Leslie in sixth, Adrian Lopez in seventh, Daniel Levivi in eighth, Lloyd Conway in ninth, and Danush Pamorji sitting there in 10th, top 10 cars within a second. And then you've got Corwin, Kocher, Da Silva, Snyder, Novice, Duval, Posada, Cardenas, Hagan, Grunsky, Dillon, and Day. That's your top 22. We've got Thomas Brashear, Embriette Hyde, Adam Thompson, and Ken Glasser. Does not look like any of those have set a time. So we'll see if they're in the sim, if they're going to make the race. Obviously, Thompson just coming back. So hopefully he managed to get a few laps of practice in. If he's going to compete tonight, I'm sure he probably will. Obviously, he wants to, he's going for the championship, had a good start to the season, and obviously wants to get back on the right foot. And there's our qualifying results, and that'll be our grid for tonight. And as soon as it rolls over, we'll do our starting grid. And we also get obviously standing start to this race. So we'll run through those as quickly as we can.
We got Stephen Case on pole.
Yep.
Chris Eggert starting alongside him in second. Skylar Vicroy in third. I like Velasco in fourth, Jason Green on row 3, and next to Varun Bali. We got Adrian Lopez in second, starting next to Daniel Lovely, Lloyd Conway in ninth, and Danush Pajori in 10th, Joshua Corwin in 11th, Jason Kocher in 12th, Tyrone De Silva in 13th, Justin Snyder in 14th.
Yep, and we'll finish up Navas, Duval, Posada, Cardenas. Your top 18, Tyler Hagan, Igor Grunsky, Kulkaran Dillon, Neil Day, 22. And then we've got our 4 drivers who did not did not set a time. And we'll be waiting for the cars to get on the grid. And that looks like we've pretty much got everybody out there, but we've got 4 drivers who are sitting in the pit, so we'll have to wait for the grid timer to end, and then we'll get our start to the race here. And once again, 25-minute race with a standing start. Always have to be careful this starts. Sometimes we'll have some drivers that maybe are using clutch systems that will get it wrong. Occasionally, it happens. Even with some of the best drivers, it still happens. So we'll keep an eye on that and make sure we don't have any incidents here at the very start of the race. We're just waiting on our lights to switch off, and we'll get this thing underway. Here we go, and we're off. We're looking, and we don't see anything. Looks like we've got a good start all the way around, but we're almost trying to go 4 wide through 1. That's not going to work as they filter their way down to turn 1 for the first time. Have a couple cars dropping back. Caborgi, De Silva, Corwin. I saw Conway drop back a little bit too, but Stephen Case out to the front, taking the lead. Vic Roy and Eggert side by side, coming out through turn 3 as they're working their way through 4, and then the run down into turn 5. It's like pretty standard stuff so far. Adrian Lopez only down 3 positions, but everybody else is doing a pretty good job, as we see now. Still a little testing of the inside there. I believe that was Josh Leslie looking to the inside to see if he could make a move. Couldn't quite make it work. Looks like he had a little bit of brake lockup. As we're going to continue on. Sorry, that was Levivia, I believe, instead of Leslie. And Leslie is going to continue on as we're back up to the front. Case, Vic Roy, Eggert, Velasco, Green, your top 5. We're on board here with Velasco, working his way down the hill and even further down as they're working their way down the sector of this first lap. So far, pretty standard, pretty good start by everybody, Kane.
I'm not surprised to see the field spreading out already, because as I said, this I would have to say is one of the more difficult tracks on the whole iRacing service to get right. So it seems like everybody's just settling in, warming up their tires, and getting a feel of their equipment as Case leads the way with Vic Roy in second.
Absolutely. And you can see our timing tower. We've got our in-between cars. We see Stephen Case with the opening 140.7. Those times will drop this time. We'll be back down to that 137 range for this lap. Now that we've got the cars up to full song, pretty much all the top 6 are in within a second of each other. See a little bit of a gap back to Borgi, second and a half back as we see Jason Green fall back a little bit now. So we're on board here with Josh Corbin. Getting some pressure from behind from Adrian Lopez. Corbin doing a good job running his line. Not too much pressure from Lopez, but now is looking to the inside to make that run down into turn 5, and is going to make that move and get that done and get the pass made. So good job by Lopez. Picks up P11. Corwin drops down to P12 as they continue on working their way through 6 and 7 and working down the hill up and then through 8 and then the climb back up. Just love how this track just flows. It's up and down, up and down. It's like a roller coaster, almost 3 mile long roller coaster at 150 miles an hour down the straightaway. It's pretty amazing track.
Absolutely. I think we had a little problem for Snyder down into the hairpin there. It looks like he took a tow back to the pit. We saw some smoke as we were watching the leaders go through.
Yep, we'll see if we can get a replay from Mike and see if we can pick up what happened to Justin Snyder and ask for it, and you shall receive. And we're going to work our way down. That's the 347 car there on the outside, the Lego branded car. Oh, it just gets a little bit of a pit in the maneuver there from the car behind. Could not. Oh, and then contact there by another car as it was going through. And so that is the reason why Snyder has pitted. We'll see if we can pick up that number. It's 44.
Yeah, it was
Whoever
Posada.
Posada. Oh yeah, just that's
That's what I was telling you, Charles. Is that's a very difficult to get down into the hairpin. I noticed in practice it was very easy to lock up the tires and skid a little bit wide, and that looked like exactly what happened there to Posada. I'm sure he didn't mean that, but yeah, unfortunate incident for Snyder at the beginning of his race.
Yep, as we're back on board, so we're looking at Corwin there, who's got back around Lopez to pick P11 back up. We'll go back up to the front with Stephen Case still leading. He's pulled that gap out to 1 second even. So Vic Roy in that danger zone of losing to the leader car. As a matter of fact, all the cars up the front are starting to stretch out quite a bit as we see the gap now 1 second between Vic Roy and Eggert. So looks like the gaps are a little bit further out than I was expecting. I was kind of expecting this to be a little bit tighter toward the front, but so far Stephen Case has got the field in check and is actually able to pull a little bit of a gap and stretch that lead out.
Yeah, Charles, have you done any laps at this car track combo?
I have not. I was going to do it. I had time to do it today. I obviously, I've talked about the F3 car, love the F3 car, and I have driven at Portimao before, just not in this car. I think I drove a GT car here doing some event of some type. It might have just been a practice session with some of my teammates, but fun track, and it's seeing some of the guys that in my team that run here that were running the GTP car. It's mind-boggling how difficult it is to get the car around this track. So yeah, it's I'm still going to have to go back and spend a little more time in this F3 and trying to get myself re-familiarized with it. Especially, I think we've got Sebring coming up next week, which is I think my favorite track combination with this car. Just love Sebring, the layout in the combination with this. Just fantastic to watch and to drive. So it's we'll keep an eye on that as well. Or maybe I could be wrong because I think I did I'm trying to remember if I did the F3 race here or the F4 race here. So as part of the broadcast. So we'll see. But yeah, I will definitely have to give this a shot just to see how it feels. As we're on board here with Conway, and then we'll switch back to Josh Corbin. We got a battle here with Tyrone De Silva in P10. Corbin's managed to close that gap up to De Silva and managed to stretch the gap back to Lopez, who had just passed him just a couple of minutes ago. And Corbin says, not having that. Made the pass back and has pulled a 1.2 second gap. As you start seeing more white on our timing and scoring tower there, as the gaps between the cars are really starting to increase. But we've got a nice battle here with Jason Green and Alex Velasco. Only a quarter of a second between the two. And Velasco's trying to turn up the wick and see if he can put a little more pressure on Green, as Green is also trying to do the same thing to Eggert up in P3.
Yeah, not surprised to see the cars spreading out, as we talked about. This track is super fun to lap. You almost don't want to pull back into the pits, but it's very difficult to put your lap time down consistently and to hit your mark with just the big variation in their speeds and radiuses, elevations. This track really has everything for you. It's definitely a driver's track.
Yeah, it really is. It is. I would absolutely agree with that. It does have everything you'd ever want in a racetrack. And it's, because it's held a couple of F1 events here, it's a pretty safe track. So we've got some grass in some spots that you have to be careful for, but there's a lot of concrete on the outside of these track limits, as well as gravel traps that will keep you off the wall, which is what you want. You want to be able to recover the car, get back on the track, and keep racing if you make a mistake. One of those things that you don't want to do is take that curve. We saw a couple of cars already as Conway so close there to Little Bivy is really starting to put the pressure as we've kind of lost somebody. Who we lose? We lost. Okay, De Silva has been passed already by Corbin, and Corbin's already kind of put the gap 0.8 of a second back to De Silva, and so he's moving up, has made it into the top 10 as Conway gets to run down the straightaway and is going to make the move to the inside on Lebivy. and take over P8. Looks like he got that done in fine form, and then carries it a little too much coming through 1, and manages to get it caught back up through 2, and slow down for 3, and was able to keep that spot after he almost made a good move, then almost threw it away the next corner. Which is one of those things, especially when you're carrying a little more speed from that draft than you expect going into 1. Sometimes you have a tendency to maybe overshoot just a little bit.
As we see Jason Green here finally catching up to Chris Eggert, putting a little bit of pressure on him for the podium spot. And these cars are really fun to drive around here.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of grip, and so you could get yourself into about any situation. It's pretty sure-footed. As you could see, you can just push the front and it'll plow. And as long as you let the tires heat up, you can really get the right foot into it and get the rear end wiggling around a little bit. But I think it's pretty easy to get yourself in trouble with feeling like you have so much grip you can do anything. And with the high speeds here, you really have to get your entry speed and your line just right, or even all that downforce and grip isn't going to save you.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our tightest battle on the track. We've got a 2/10 of a second from Eggert to Green, and then another half a second back to Velasco. As you see, Green really pushing the edge there through 2. Gets the car slowed down, fine form there through 3. A little bit of a correction there on the steering as he comes out of 3, and then makes a good run through 4 and has that run down. Is he going to be able to make a move? I think he's not going to be close enough here. He is not, so he's going to have to hold back here at 5. You see a little puff of smoke there from Eggert, a little bit of a brake lock up, probably that inside front tire. If you start turning in before with too much brake pressure, you will absolutely lock those front tires up, especially on the inside. Ooh, as we see Eggert going wide, Green taking a very, very narrow run. Is he going to make this run down and make it stick? Looks like he's got the line this time. And just enough. Looks like he's got it cleared. He does indeed. So he's got a good pass. That was a great run by Green there.
Yeah, beautiful move. This is actually one of these circuits, Charles, where might actually not mind being behind the other rider or driver and just pushing him, making him work really hard, making him work the equipment and the tires while you just sit back and see where you need to adjust. So let's see how Jason does now that he's in the front. We saw Chris Eggert really working those tires while he was ahead of Jason Green.
Yep. So now as we're heading down the front straight, Eggert down in P5, got passed by Velasco as well. Is going to make that run down. He's going to get that spot back. Now he's got to get the car moved outside, and successfully done there. Carrying the proper speed through 1 and 2. Nicely done. So he's going to take that spot back. So that's back up to P4 for Eggert. Velasco drops down to P5, and you see that already starting to see a little bit of oversteering there coming out of that corner. So it looks like to me with 12 minutes gone in this 25-minute race, halfway done, as we see Velasco gets back by on the run down into turn 5, is already starting to see a little bit of issues with the rear tires. So you're starting to see those tires are already starting to fade a little bit in the back. And we're only halfway through the race.
Absolutely, Charles. I noticed you really had to back up your markers and be more and more precise as the laps wore on. I think there's a dual effect. There's one is the wear of the rear tires, but the other is just building heat from not carrying a consistent speed through the corner. So this was one of the things in practice I was noticing with the good grip of the front. You almost have to compensate by driving the car very hard into the corners, so you don't need to use as much of that accelerator pedal on the exit.
Yeah, good point there. As we're on board here, still got this. Now we're up to a 5-car battle. So we've got Green at the front of this train, and we've got Velasco who's Green in 3rd, Velasco 4th, Eggert 5th. Borgi just making the move on Josh Leslie to take over 6th, and then Leslie sitting there in 7th place. So now The little bit of fighting that those guys did, they didn't do a lot, and a lot of their passes were done before they got into the braking zones. But it still allowed these cars to make up some ground. And it's oh, that's not going to work, and just barely gets that done. Paborgi gets through 4 in the lead, but you got Leslie only about a tenth of a second behind him. So be looking to see if he can do something with that. Nope, I think Leslie says I'm not going to worry about it right now. Back off. He got a good run out of the corner, made up a little bit of time on exit, but you could already see the battles are starting to heat up here in the back of this group. But I think what these guys need to be focused on is let's stay in line for a lap or two and get back up to these 3 cars in front, and then we can maybe do a little bit of fighting, and maybe we're doing some fighting with the guys in front of us as opposed to amongst ourselves.
Yeah, Paborgi there up 4. He didn't want to give that spot up to Bali. Maybe he felt like he had good pace and he wanted to try to catch back up to Eggert there, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Right now we're looking at Jason Kotcher, who's back here in 13th. He's got a healthy lead over Alex Duval of about 6 seconds, and he's trying to narrow in on Adrian Lopez that's up ahead of him here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to apologize. I'm sitting here looking at the screen that says Josh Leslie in 7th, but it's Varun Bali who's actually in 7th position. So a little bit of an issue with our time and score. Very sorry about that. As we're seeing the battle here, Bali taking the outside line, trying to work his way through. He's going to make that stick and is able to get that done. Paborgi's still on the inside trying to fight back. Is able to late break on the inside line there. And it looks like Bali's going to try and cut a crossover and get the run down here out of 4. And you don't think he's going to be close enough here to make a move on Paborgi. A late dive if he does. Oh, he's going to late break, and he's going to back out of it. Very smart by Bali there. Did not want to push that issue at this point in the race as we're 15 minutes in, 10 minutes to go. He said there's a little more time for fighting there. We're going to replay here of Navas coming in. I believe that's into turn 9 at the top of the hill and just loses the rear of the car. So we are starting to see more and more of the rear tire damage, rear tire issues starting to come into effect, as now we're having cars that are getting some little half spins coming out of corners.
Yeah, I noticed that this corner here at the top of the hill is a lot more difficult than it looks.
Yeah, it seems like it's. Is it Josh? Okay, thank you, Mike. So we need clarification that is Josh Leslie. So our timing tower on the screen is correct. Our software that we're using for other things is not. So very sorry about the confusion there. As we're on board here with Leslie as he's starting to get that run down. We'll watch that time tick down, the little gap. He's going to gain about 2/10 and then kind of lifts a little bit. Sets the nose really well in the 1 there. And is able to get that car through 1 and 2 very cleanly. And he's going to try and get that run. So Paborgi with a little correction coming out of 3. So we'll see that more and more of that as time goes on. We've still got Stephen Case up front. His gap is now 3 seconds over Viceroy. We got Jason Green running in 3rd. 2.5 second gap between himself and Viceroy in 2nd. Then we've got Velasco still close behind Green.
Okay.
And then the gap has dropped back between Velasco and Eggert, now 2.8 seconds between those 2 cars. As you can see the gap there. And then you've got Paborgi followed by Leslie, followed by Conway, Lubivi, and then Corwin, your top 10. So a couple battles there, obviously, as we're scrolling through. Velasco still trying to chase down Jason Green. Leslie still trying to chase down Paborgi. And Josh Corwin is now closing that gap on Lubivi. He's done a good job to tighten that gap up and has really stretched the gap back to De Silva 3.5 seconds. So he's done a really good job. Looks like the top 10 are starting to really kind of extend their gap out to the rest of the field as we see some bigger gaps on down as this track is now starting to take its toll on the field.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if everybody can hold on their positions in the last 7 minutes here. I expect that The tires are really going to start to fall off in the rear here, and it'll be interesting
Mhm.
to see if these guys can keep their lap times up at the front.
Yeah, it is indeed. As we a couple of really close calls season. Had a couple of late race spins that really kind of changed the order up. But so far, everybody's standing pat as we see Hagan. It's like he's a little bit wide coming coming out of 13. As we are working our way through 14, we're on board with Dylan here. Got a good run going. Let's see if he's going to be able to make up this 2/10 of a second gap. Yeah, closing it down quite nicely on Hagan, and is going to make that move to the inside. Looks like it's about a 3.5 tenths of a second gain, being behind somebody coming through coming down the front straight into turn one. And then Dylan able to just kind of stretch that out as we're going through three. You see a little bit of smoke there as a lockup from the fronts again. So it's another one of those things you have to really pay attention to. So in your case, Kane, do you do a lot of brake bias adjustments when you're driving cars like this?
Not usually. I try to just keep things simple and keep with the driving. It more, I would say, from track to track. Some tracks like Laguna this week, we're racing in the Spec Racer Ford.
Mm-hmm.
This is the track with the downhill braking zone. You need to move the brake bias a little bit farther back to get the car to slow down pretty quick. But I think, like, especially this car here, uh, what you do with your foot is going to be almost more important than what you do with the car. And I'm actually really impressed how well these guys are holding in. I saw that Steven, Skylar, and Jason are all within a half a second of their fastest laps with their last laps, still hanging in there in the 37th. So pretty impressive pace out of our leaders at the front.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive. If you're within a half second, as you see the fast lap of the race was Stephen Case with a 137.28. So back down around that qualifying pace that we saw earlier. And yeah, his last lap was only about 3.5 tenths off that. So he's done a great job of managing his equipment for the first 20 minutes of this race. As we're going board here with Tyrone De Silva, just carrying a bit wide off on those curbs on the outside, and just can't get it tightened up enough, and loses the rear of that car. It's just one of those that you get on those curbs and the rear starts going away, and you really can't do anything. You're just trying to get the car slowed down without really putting a lot of brake pressure in, and just can't quite get it. And unfortunate for him that he lost the rear there, but obviously got back out on the track, did not hit anything, and is back out racing again. And still sitting in 13th, but about 12 seconds off of, about 4 seconds off of Jason Kocher in 12th.
Yeah, these cars have a lot of grip until they don't.
Until they don't, and the inside curb there at 1 will loosen your teeth and your grip at the same time. As we see Corwin going around, he's going to lose that position. You can just see it's pretty obvious. Catches that inside sausage curb there, and just not really anything, just a passenger at that point. Not really anything you can do except try and get the car stopped and don't get anybody's way. And you saw Lopez making his way around, and so he's going to have a little bit of work to do. He's only a second and a half back, so he's going to try and hustle back around. I'm sure he's going to want to get that top 10 finish out of this if at all possible.
Yep. I see Velasco still hanging in there with a shot of the podium behind Green here. He's hanging just between 5/10 and a second behind.
Yep, and you see a little lock up there as Velasco was going down into turn 12, and just quite couldn't get it, and manages to get it squared back up, but lost obviously a little bit of time there, a couple 3/10, trying to get the car reset. And so he's still there with a chance. He's gonna have to have basically 2 perfect laps here at the end of this race. And I believe this is going to be 2 to go at the line if my math is correct. As we're on board, is still carrying with Velasco there, so he's going to try and make that gap up to Jason Green if at all possible. Paborgi's still within a second of Eggert. He's still trying to hang in there as we're on board now with Paborgi and you can see him tighten that gap up. Maybe Eggert made a little bit of a mistake there. I see a little lock up there on the inside front for Eggert coming through 3. So now Paborgi in with a real shot to try and get a move done.
Yeah, he's one of our biggest movers today. He's up 4
Yeah.
from the beginning, and he's been pushing pretty hard since the beginning. Had a good fight earlier with Varun Bali, and it looks
Oh,
like he's having a problem with the
oh,
shifter there.
he did indeed. He was out of gear, or he was in the rev limit for sure, and that allows Leslie to get past. That was very close there. So yeah, obviously missed a shift coming out of that corner, and didn't quite realize it in time. And you could just hear the engine pinging off the rev limiter. That cost him basically 2-3 seconds on track. So yeah, that is a big loss there. And now I think he just lost the car as well.
Yeah, little red mist maybe coming down. That's too bad. He had a really good run. He was looking at having a chance to catch up to Chris Eggert, who's running a good race up there in 5th.
Yeah, just too much speed coming through there, and just luckily gets it into the gravel, and that's going to be he may be having some problems there. He may be having some hardware issues with his rig, so it looks like he's just kind of parked there on the outside. We'll see if he gets moving or not, but it definitely looks like he's unable to continue on for the race. Tough luck from Paborgi. Had a good run going, was up there battling up to around the P5 area with Eggert, trying to get that top 5 and done, and just I think he's towed back now. So looks like he has managed to get himself towed back to the pits, or he is alt F4, one of the two. Either way, that's a tough way to end the race especially when you're coming up with about a lap left.
Yeah, tough break for him. He was running really good. As we're looking at Stephen Case basically pretty much dominating the race today.
Yeah.
Didn't pull too far ahead, but put in solid laps from beginning to end, and just extended his lead a few tenths every lap, and that's
yeah. Paborgi's still
that's
sitting
all
in
you
that
need
gravel
to do.
trap. Yeah, that's it. Stephen did a great job today as we're coming up here for our final lap. And so he'll be working his way around the final couple of corners, and will take this race victory 2.5 seconds over Skylar Vickroy. So yeah, got a lead, extended it out, and then just kind of maintained it for the remainder of the race. Probably did not have to push the tires nearly as hard once he got out there. But a great run from Stephen Case, who takes the victory tonight over Skylar Vickroy. Jason Green will finish 3rd, Velasco in 4th, and Chris Eggert will round out your top 5. So great run by those guys. Josh Leslie will finish in 6th. Lloyd Conway will finish 7th. Levivi in 8th. Josh Corwin in 9th. Jason Kocher rounds out your top. Jason Kocher rounds out your top 10 as we see a spin there from Igor Grunsky, riding that Angry Birds livery. Gets the car back on track. Is going to end up losing a position there at the very late stages of the race. Jason Kocher again finishing 10th. Adam Duvall's coming around now. Will be finishing in P11. Jose Navas finishing in 12th. Rafael Cardenas will finish in 13th. Grunsky will end up finishing in 14th. And Hagen will roll around and finish in 15th. He's still got a couple of corners left. He had a pretty good gap between himself and Grunsky. And the rest of the order will give you a full rundown. Once everybody gets across the start-finish line, I think Paborgi may still be stuck out on the. Oh no, he has towed back, so he is back in the pits and able to. He finally was able to get his car reset back, but once again, tough break for him. Looks like he's going to end up finishing in 20th. So not a great ending to what would have been a really good day for Paborgi.
Yeah, too bad for him. I'll tell you who had a good race today was Stephen Case. I think the only lap that he ran out of the 37s were the first lap and the last lap. And I'm sure he just backed off a little bit on the last lap. But he put down solid 37s and was running a half a second off his best for most of the race, and just put the wood to everybody. And behind him, Skylar and Jason both drove solid races as well. And Aaron Velasco putting another good finish in for 4th, and Chris Eggert up in fifth. These guys are all in a pretty tight bunch for the championship as well. So it shows that the cream of the crop is right at the top this week.
Yeah, it
Going to be a
really
really
is.
interesting week next week in Sebring.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a great race next week. And thank you for verifying that it's Sebring. So I'm sure I've called a race there, and just I feel like Ron, from time to time, you've got when you're doing multiple races a week, sometimes they all kind of blend together after a while. I mean, I don't do 230 since the start of the year, but I do enough that sometimes I don't always remember what I was doing yesterday, much less 2 weeks ago. So we'll get is Zandvoort. Okay, thank you, Mike. Yeah, so yeah, Sebring we've already had coming up, and Zandvoort's going to be a fun track as well. That's absolutely the revised Zandvoort layout, high bank corners, is going to make for a really interesting race with these cars.
Absolutely.
And let's get our race results. Stephen Case, your winner tonight. Skylar Vickroy finishing in second. Jason Green rounds out your podium in third. Alex Velasco with solid fourth place, as well as Chris Eggert in fifth. Josh Leslie finishing in sixth. Lloyd Conway finished seventh. Daniel Lebivy finished eighth. Josh Corwin finishing in ninth. Jason Kocher rounds out your top 10. In 11th, we got Adam Duvall. Jose Navas finishing in 12th. Rafael Cardenas in 13th. Igor Grunsky finishing in 14th. Tyler Hagan finishing in 15th. Diego Posada 16th. Colquhoun Dillon in 17th. Neil Day finishes in 18th. And the rest of your order, Adrian Lopez finishing in 19th. Danush Baborgi, obviously, tough way to end, finishing in 20th. Tyrone De Silva, 21st. Justin Snyder, 22nd. Thomas Brashear, 23rd. Adam Thompson, 24th. Ken Glazer, 25th. Embriette Hyde finishing 26th. The Brashear, Thompson, Glaser, and Hyde did not take the start of the race. And we do have a couple of drivers sitting in our waiting room. So let's bring in Alex Velasco, who finished fourth tonight. So we'll bring him in and have a chat with him. See if we can get this all working here. Alex, welcome into the booth. P4 tonight had a really good battle there with Jason Green for most of the race. So talk to it about from the driver's seat.
Yeah, so from my perspective, Jason Green, he was a little bit faster than me almost every lap, but if I stayed on his tail, I was able to get that draft on him and catch up to him and just keep within a second distance and kept that DRS open.
Yeah, so we started seeing the same issues we've seen all season long toward the end of the race, with starting to get those half spins and cars just not able to get through the corner because of the rear tire wear. Did you see that as well?
Yeah, the tire wear was definitely an issue. I was prioritizing it before we got into any heavy racing. So like when we were getting tires warmed up, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna not grind on these tires in every corner, and I'll keep them up for the end. And it did its job. So I'm happy to finish the race with some tread still on it.
Absolutely. So we've got Zandvoort coming up next week. Have you put any time in there, or in general?
Got experience at Zandvoort.
Yeah.
It is a interesting track, but I think only the Dutch can master it. So you'll have to talk to Max.
I have to talk to Max.
All the answer.
Well, I will talk with Max later this week, and I'll let you know what it's going to end up. So
You definitely will.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So Alex, congratulations on your P4 solid points haul tonight, and we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs before we let you go.
Yeah, much appreciated. I just want to thank you guys for being here and Jason for setting this all up. And everybody that's listening, I'm the endurance racing director at SRG. Come hang out and do some endurance racing on the weekends, and let's do the same thing we're doing here, but for 4 hours at a time.
Hey, I got a couple of guys on my team that will probably enjoy that. So we'll see if we can see if we can make that happen. All right, Alex,
Much appreciated.
congratulations, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Charles.
That was Alex Velasco, P4 tonight. Kane, do you feel like you want to do an interview?
Sure.
All right. Well, we'll bring Daniel Lebivy in, who finished in P8. So we'll drag him down. We'll let you interview him.
Hi, Daniel. How you doing tonight?
Good. How about yourself?
Pretty good. How did you find the Portimao track tonight?
Brutal. It's not one of my favorites.
Yeah, I was thinking that when you look at this track on the calendar, it's either one you circle to survive or circle to win. And I imagine if you're going to win, you're going to do a lot of practice, and even surviving is probably difficult, even if you know the track well. What was the most challenging part of the circuit and the race for you this evening?
I guess would be the combination there, but after that, it's just survival and trying not to make mistakes with people behind you and people in front of you. So that's been.
And how did the race go for you tonight from your point?
The goal was top 10, so I made it in top 10, and that's kind of the goal of the season. So we'll take it as a victory for tonight.
And is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out to before we let you go tonight?
Shout out to Jason for hosting everything and making sure we got somewhere to go and making sure we always have a competitive atmosphere between friends.
Next week is Zandvoort. Have you put any laps at that track in this car combo before?
I have not. I do not. I will probably do some tonight and try to get some practice in before next week, but I actually do not remember the track at all, so that'll be next step.
Okay, well, good luck to you next week, and hope to see you on track.
Cheers. Thank you.
That was Daniel Lebivy, P8 tonight's race, and we've got a couple. Skylar Vickroy, our second place finisher tonight, and we'll bring him in for a quick interview. Skylar, P2 tonight. Congratulations. Looks like Steven had your number tonight. Had everybody's number tonight.
Yeah. Going in practice, I knew he had a little bit more. I had, once in a while, I had the pace. And so the goal for me was to qualify next to him and then literally just try to be on his case or interrupt his flow. And that was the only shot I was going to have at getting a victory tonight. Just did not get the lap together in the qualifying that I needed. It was a few tenths off. I was making mistakes and I caught traffic a few times, and it's just the way it is, So he ran a great race, and I'm happy with second because this is a track I have not done well at the past. So I will take a second place, take the points, and go home a happy man.
Yeah. So we've kind of asked and we were kind of watching the race off. And so what was the biggest thing for you, the biggest challenge for this track?
This track requires extremely smooth inputs, and just kind of making sure you have your mid-corner speed is very important here, but it's hard to get that judgment correct because every corner is different. So you're like, okay, the car feels good in this corner. All right, well, this is a decreasing radius. This is an opening radius. This is downhill. This is uphill. This is off camber. It's like, okay, geez, like it's a lot of thinking to get around this track quickly.
Yeah, basically like driving a roller coaster for a living, right?
Absolutely. It's a great track. It's a lot of fun,
Yep.
But you are on the wheel the whole time to make sure just the littlest mistake and you're on the curbs and you're out there mowing the grass.
Well, there you go. Well, it was a little bit of a different track next week with Zandvoort next on the schedule. Obviously, got some nice high bank corners, got some nice S's and some tighter corners as well. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, we're going to put in some work there. I haven't raced a ton at Zandvoort. There's going to be some big, heavy braking zones.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest thing about that is you have connecting corners. So if you don't get the first couple right, you're in a mess. And you really need to take care of your tires because the track is notorious for sliding the car around quite a bit. So it will be hard to pass. So qualifying is really, really crucial. It's a narrow track. There's not a lot of big opportunities pass. So we'll see how it all lies out next week.
There we go. Skylar, well, congratulations again with their P2 tonight. We'll let you give any thanks or shouts out, and we'll let you go about your merry way, and we'll see you next week.
For sure. I'd just like to give a shout out to, of course, the SMB crew. You guys always do a great podcast. A shout out to Jason, the SRG group, and Alex, and all those guys that put on this great event. And shout out to my boys, Scott and Dave. I know they were watching the last couple of weeks, and they've been rooting for me, so appreciate the support, fellas. And I will see you all next week, hopefully back on the podium, one place higher.
There you go. Skylar, congratulations. We'll see you next week.
Take care, fellas.
And that is our interviews for tonight. So, Kane, final thoughts on tonight's race?
Yeah, I was really impressed with how most of the guys were able to handle the car and the tires and their pace. It looks like everybody put in some good practice, and we saw mostly good racing tonight on the track. And I think that Skylar hit the nail on the head. Like Zandvoort next week is another actually quite difficult technical track that is difficult to pass, hard on the tires, and very narrow, and can lead to race-ending mistakes. So I think it's going to be just a great race again next week.
All right. So thank you very much for filling in tonight. Did a great job. And we'll talk about what we've got upcoming for the rest of the week. We've got our Super Saturday with Formula V's Weekend Warriors on Saturday at 3:30 Eastern Time. Our doubleheader action from Laguna Seca with Ray Esports Weekend Warriors, the Formula Fords, followed by the Spec Racer Ford. And then Sunday night, we've got the XSLR, which will start a new season up here very, very soon. And I think our initial offering, as we're going to be a 20 race season, our initial one will be in the F-3 car as well. And then also, once again, August 9th, the Sizzling Sebring 180, presented by the USRA. 3-hour long race at Sebring in LMP2s and GT3s. It's going to be a fixed sit-up race. It's going to be fantastic cash payout and lots of broadcasts with some weather changes during the course of that. So we're looking forward to that as well. And I think that's going to wrap things up for tonight for Magic Mike Braun, our production manager, taking care of the board for us. For Kane Lasky, once again, thank you very much, Kane. I am Charles Beauchelle. Thank you so much for watching the SRG F3 on Wednesday nights here at Slow Motion Broadcasting. And we will see you next week. Have a good night.